The way we see the problem is the problem. That one sentence, simple and quiet, opens a book that has transformed millions of lives. Think about that for a moment. It doesn't say the problem is the problem. It says the way we see it is. It's a gentle but powerful challenge, one that pulls the lens inward, because before we fix our habits, our schedules, our goals, we have to examine how we see ourselves, our mindset, our assumptions, our hidden paradigms. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey doesn't offer tricks or tactics. It offers transformation. It teaches us how to lead ourselves, not just to be more productive, but to be more principled. Not just to manage time, but to manage meaning. Not just to chase success, but to live with integrity. This book is about habits, yes, but not the habits you use to check more boxes. These are the habits that shape character, the ones that reveal your purpose, the ones that quietly, steadily build a foundation strong enough to carry the life you truly want. So if you've ever felt scattered, overwhelmed, like you're always running but unsure if it's even in the right direction, this message is for you. Welcome to Book Play, where we turn powerful books into powerful life changes. Each video here is crafted to help you grow, not just faster but deeper, not just smarter but stronger, from the inside out. If this resonates with you, go ahead and like the video and subscribe. That way, you'll never miss the next insight from the world's most powerful books. Because sometimes, all it takes is one idea, one sentence, one habit, to start becoming the person you were meant to be. Let's begin with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And the first person we'll meet on this journey is David. David is 27 years old. On the surface, things look fine, maybe even good. He has a full-time job in a growing company, a decent salary, a clean apartment, a long to-do list. He's educated, capable, and always seems to be working on something. But inside, he feels like he's falling apart, slowly, silently. Every morning starts with tension in his chest. Every evening ends with a vague sense of guilt, that he didn't do enough, wasn't focused enough, didn't make the day count. He doesn't talk about this with anyone, not because he's ashamed, but because he doesn't really have the words. After all, he's functioning. He shows up. He delivers. He stays late. He answers emails at midnight. But what people don't see is the cost, the constant second-guessing, the emptiness behind all the activity, the way his mind races, even when his body is still. He thought he was just tired. Maybe he needed a vacation. But deep down, he knows it's more than that. The real problem? He doesn't know what he's working toward anymore. He used to be motivated, used to feel driven, even inspired. Now he just feels like he's trying to hold everything together. His calendar is full, but his life feels hollow. He's productive, but not present. Busy, but not fulfilled. And worst of all, he feels like he's drifting from something important. But he's not sure what it is. Maybe it's purpose. Maybe it's peace. Maybe it's himself. It all comes to a head on a rainy Thursday evening. David is alone in the office. Again, everyone else has gone home. The building is quiet except for the soft hum of fluorescent lights and the ticking of the wall clock. He stares at his screen. 6 open tabs, 4 half-written emails, and a spreadsheet he's edited 3 times but still isn't sure about. He leans back in his chair, closes his eyes. For a moment, he imagines closing the laptop, walking out the door and not coming back. Not because he hates his job, but because he doesn't know why he's doing any of it anymore. That night, he goes home, skips dinner, and opens his laptop again. But instead of work, he opens a browser and types, "Why do I feel burned out even when I'm doing everything right?" He doesn't expect much, but he scrolls anyway, through articles on time management, self-care, motivation tips. Most of it feels too surface level. Then one quiet title catches his eye: The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He's seen it before, maybe on a shelf or in a podcast episode, but tonight, something about it lands differently. He clicks, reads a summary, then stops on a quote. We see the world not as it is, but as we are, or as we are conditioned to see it. That sentence lingers. He reads it again and again. Maybe his problem isn't just exhaustion. Maybe it's how he's seeing his life. Maybe he's been reacting instead of creating. Maybe he's been living by urgency instead of values. He doesn't hesitate. He orders the book. It arrives 2 days later. David opens it slowly. The cover feels serious, classic. No flashy design, no promises of overnight results. Inside the front flap, one phrase stands out: an inside-out approach to personal effectiveness. It's not about quick fixes. It's about who you are and how that shapes what you do. He reads the introduction, then the first chapter, then the first habit. Something begins to shift, not in a dramatic way, but like a light turning on in a dark hallway. For the first time in months, maybe years, David feels something he hasn't felt in a long time: hope. Not hope that everything will suddenly be easy, but hope that change is possible, that growth is real, that there's a better way to live than constantly rushing, constantly proving, constantly pleasing. He keeps reading, slowly, thoughtfully. He's not just learning information, he's rediscovering something he thought he lost, a quiet sense of direction. And it begins with a single idea: to change your life, you must first change your lens. David closes the book for the night. It's nearly midnight, but for once, he's not exhausted. He's awake, not just physically, but emotionally. For the first time in a long time, he feels like he's not just reacting to life, he's about to start creating it. And it all begins with the first habit. When David begins reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he doesn't just find advice, he finds a framework for life. From the very first pages, Stephen R. Covey makes something clear. This is not a book about being more efficient with your time. It's a book about becoming more intentional with your life. Most people, David included, have been trained to focus on results, achievements, productivity, external success, but Covey invites us to step back and go deeper. He says, true effectiveness isn't about doing more things faster. It's about doing the right things, for the right reasons, in the right way. That means starting from the inside out. Before you build habits, you must understand your principles. Before you plan your time, you must clarify your values. Before you seek success in the outer world, you must develop integrity in your inner world. This is what makes the 7 Habits different. And this is why it has sold more than 40 million copies around the world. It's not trendy, it's timeless. Covey breaks the 7 habits into 3 core stages. 1. Private victory. The first 3 habits are focused on self-mastery, becoming the kind of person who can lead yourself before trying to lead others. These habits help you reclaim your power, clarify your purpose, and live with discipline and intention. This is where David begins to feel the deepest shifts, learning to pause, reflect, and act from vision rather than emotion. Second, public victory habits. 4 through 6 focus on relationships, how to collaborate, communicate, and create synergy with others. Because effectiveness isn't just about individual success, it's about interdependence, building trust, seeking mutual benefit, and developing true empathy. David begins to realize that his work and relationships can only thrive if they are grounded in respect and real understanding, not control or competition. 3. Renewal. The 7th habit is about ongoing growth, sharpening the saw, taking care of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health so you can continue to grow without burning out. This is the habit that sustains all the others. It's what David had been missing all along, the space to restore, not just perform. Habit number 1. Be proactive. You're not a product of your circumstances. You are a product of your choices. David always thought of himself as responsible. He followed rules, met deadlines, showed up when he was supposed to. But inside, he often felt powerless, trapped in his schedule, reacting to emails, caught in team conflicts he didn't cause and couldn't control. When things went wrong, he blamed the system, the culture, the people, sometimes even himself, but always from a place of guilt, not growth. Then he read habit 1. Be proactive. And something shifted. Covey explained that there are 2 circles in every life. The circle of concern, all the things you worry about but can't control. The circle of influence, the things you can control, your words, your responses, your decisions. David realized he'd been living almost entirely in his circle of concern. He spent hours stewing over office politics, team dysfunctions, and project delays, none of which he could directly change. What he hadn't realized was this: every time you blame, complain, or react impulsively, you shrink your circle of influence. But every time you take responsibility, speak with intention, or choose a better response, your influence grows. That insight hit him hard. He remembered just last week how a passive-aggressive message from a co-worker had ruined his how he replayed it in his head 10 times, drafted 3 angry replies, and stayed frustrated for hours. But what if, instead of reacting, he had responded? Not with emotion, but with principle. That day he made a quiet decision. From now on, he would live inside his circle of influence. He wouldn't always feel in control, but he would always have a choice, and that was where his power began. Start each morning by asking, what is one thing I can control today, in how I show up, speak, or choose? Write it down and act on it, even if it's small. That's how influence grows. Being proactive means choosing response over reaction, and responsibility over blame. And as David embraced this idea, a small but powerful question emerged. If I'm not just reacting, then what kind of life do I want to create? Habit number 2. Begin with the end in mind. Clarity of purpose transforms scattered effort into meaningful progress. After learning to be proactive, David felt more present, more capable. But something still felt off. He was showing up with better energy. He was reacting less. But reacting to what? He was still checking tasks off his to-do list, still attending meetings, still doing the right things. But a quiet question began to rise in him, again and again. Why am I doing all this? Not out of frustration, but out of curiosity. If he had the power to choose his response, could he also choose his direction? That's where habit 2 met him. Begin with the end in mind. Covey asked readers to imagine something radical. Picture your own funeral. Not to be morbid, but to be honest. What would people say about you? What kind of friend, colleague, partner, or person would you want to be remembered as? David closed the book and paused. That question pierced through the noise. He imagined his co-workers saying he worked late and never missed a deadline. But that didn't move him. What he wanted was different. To be remembered as someone grounded, trustworthy, vision-driven, someone who brought calm, clarity, and conviction, not just output. It was a wake-up call. David realized he'd spent years climbing a ladder without checking if it was leaning on the right wall. Habit 2 invited him to pause and define his personal mission, not as a slogan, but as a compass. It didn't have to be perfect, but it had to be his. Take 10 minutes to write your ideal self-description, not as a job title, but as a human being. Ask, how do I want to show up in the world when no one's watching? This becomes your internal North Star. Decisions become easier when you know what they must serve. Beginning with the end in mind means living today with tomorrow's values, not just tomorrow's tasks. And as David began crafting his personal vision, another question emerged. If I want to live by this purpose, how do I organize my life around it? Habit number 3, put first things first. Don't prioritize your schedule, schedule your priorities. David had a mission now, a clearer sense of the person he wanted to become, but with that clarity came a new kind of tension. He still had 42 unread emails, still had client deadlines, still had back-to-back meetings that filled his calendar, but not his spirit. He had vision, but no margin. That's when he reached habit 3. Put first things first. This habit is where discipline meets direction. Covey explains that while habit 2 is about defining what matters most, habit 3 is about making sure those things actually happen. It's about acting on importance, not reacting to urgency. David recognized the pattern immediately. He was living in what Covey calls quadrant 1 and quadrant 3, urgent tasks and constant interruptions. He was always responding, always available, always busy. But his most meaningful work, planning, learning, building relationships, sat quietly in quadrant 2, gathering dust. The work that mattered most wasn't screaming for attention, so it kept getting ignored. That insight changed everything. David began each week with a new ritual. Sunday evening, no noise, no screens, just his notebook, calendar, and a question. What are the most important things I need to invest in this week and for the life I want to live? He made time for focused work, time for deep thinking, time for movement, rest, even quiet breakfast with no phone in sight. It wasn't perfect. There were still emergencies, still meetings he couldn't avoid. But now, for the first time, he was choosing. He wasn't just managing time. He was living from purpose, moment by moment. And gradually, the feeling of burnout began to fade. Not because the workload changed, but because he changed how he approached it. Practical tip for you: before each week begins, block out 2 hours for what matters most, not what screams loudest. Name it, schedule it, protect it. This one practice can transform your energy, focus, and fulfillment. Putting first things first means leading your schedule, not being led by it. And as David practiced this rhythm, a new question surfaced. If I've learned to lead myself, what happens when I learn to lead others? Habit number 4. Think win-win. Effective relationships are built on mutual respect and shared benefit. As David moved forward, he realized that his new sense of purpose and discipline wasn't just for his own benefit. It was starting to shape how he worked with others. But old habits ran deep. He noticed his first instinct was still to protect his own interests, to compete, to win arguments, or to avoid conflict by saying yes even when he disagreed. That left him frustrated and disconnected. Then came habit 4. Think win-win. Covey described it as a mindset, not a tactic. It's the belief that there is enough success, respect, and resources for everyone. That win for one doesn't have to mean a loss for another. David thought about his last big project at work, how team members guarded information, jockeyed for credit, and competed quietly behind closed doors. What if, instead, he looked for solutions that benefited everyone? What if he led from collaboration, not competition? This idea was new and difficult. David had to learn to listen without preparing a rebuttal, to ask questions, not just give answers, to truly understand others' goals, fears, and values. It wasn't easy. Some meetings felt awkward, some colleagues resisted the shift. But gradually, something remarkable happened. When David proposed a solution that honored others' needs as well as his own, the resistance softened, trust grew, people started to open up, the team found new energy and ideas. David felt a new kind of satisfaction, one born not from winning, but from creating together. When you face conflict or negotiation, pause and ask, how can we both benefit here? Seek solutions that respect both your needs and the other person's. Thinking. Win-win means building relationships on respect and shared success. And as David embraced this mindset, he found himself asking, if collaboration is key, How do I build trust and listen more deeply? Habit number 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. True communication begins with empathetic listening, not speaking. As David embraced the win-win mindset, he realized that collaboration required more than goodwill. It demanded something deeper, the ability to truly understand others. Yet, he noticed a familiar pattern in conversations. His mind racing to respond, to explain, to fix. He was listening, but only half present, waiting for his turn to speak. That's when habit 5 struck a chord. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Covey described this as the most important habit for effective communication. David realized that when people don't feel heard, they shut down, resist, or fight back. When they do feel heard, barriers dissolve, trust builds, solutions emerge. Putting this habit into practice was harder than it sounded. David had to slow down, hold back his impulse to respond immediately, and focus entirely on the other person's words and feelings. At first he felt awkward, unsure if he was really listening or just waiting quietly. But as he persisted, he noticed a shift. Colleagues who once seemed defensive began to open up. Meetings became more constructive. Misunderstandings decreased. Even outside work, in friendships and family, he found deeper connection and less conflict. He learned that understanding isn't agreement, it's empathy. In your next conversation, try this. Focus fully on the speaker. Avoid interrupting or planning your reply. Reflect back what you hear before sharing your own view. Seeking first to understand builds bridges of empathy and clears the way for meaningful dialogue. And as David grew better at listening, he wondered, when I am truly understood, how can I share my own ideas more effectively? Habit number 6. Synergize. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. As David's communication improved and his team began to trust each other more, a new possibility opened up. The chance to create something better together, not just compromise, but innovate. This is the heart of Habit 6. Synergize. Covey explains synergy as valuing differences and bringing diverse strengths together to create outcomes no one could achieve alone. David thought back to his team's early meetings, fragmented, competitive, filled with tension. Now, with deeper understanding and a win-win mindset, conversations felt richer, more open. Ideas bounced back and forth. Different perspectives sparked fresh solutions. Challenges became shared opportunities. Yet synergy didn't come automatically. It required humility, recognizing that your way isn't always the best. Patience, listening beyond your own ideas. Courage to trust others and be vulnerable. David remembered a moment in a project discussion when a junior team member proposed an idea that initially seemed risky. Instead of dismissing it, David paused, asked questions, and encouraged the team to explore it. The result was a breakthrough solution that none of them would have created alone. That success brought a deep sense of fulfillment. David felt connected to something bigger than himself. In your next group project or discussion, actively seek out differing opinions. Ask, what can I learn from your perspective? How can we combine our strengths to create something new? Synergy transforms differences into creative power, making collaboration a source of innovation and growth. And as David experienced this, he asked himself, if synergy can unlock new potential, how do I keep growing and renewing myself? Habit number 7. Sharpen the saw. Sustained success depends on regular renewal of mind, body, heart, and spirit. After experiencing the power of synergy, David felt energized, but also aware of the toll the journey had taken. Long hours, intense focus, and emotional challenges had left him physically and mentally drained at times. That's when Habit 7 came into focus. Sharpen the saw. Covey describes this habit as the practice of self-renewal in 4 areas: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. It's the recognition that to perform at your best, you must take care of yourself, not just push harder. David began by reintroducing simple daily habits: morning stretches to awaken his body, reading for growth and inspiration, setting boundaries around work hours, practicing gratitude and mindfulness to connect with his deeper values. He realized these weren't luxuries but essentials. Each small act of renewal helped him sustain the habits he had built. They kept his motivation alive, his focus sharp, his relationship strong. Renewal wasn't a one-time event but a lifelong practice. David saw it as the foundation that supported every other habit, the sharpening that kept the saw cutting clean. Choose one area of renewal to focus on this week: physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual. Schedule a small daily habit that supports it, even 5 minutes of mindful breathing or a short walk. Sharpening the saw means investing in yourself consistently so you can continue growing without burning out. As David embraced this habit, he felt ready not just to maintain his progress, but to face whatever challenges lay ahead with resilience and hope. David's journey began with frustration and confusion, the feeling that no matter how hard he worked, he wasn't making the progress or living the life he truly wanted. Burnout shadowed his days, and self-doubt whispered that he might never find clarity or control. But through the 7 habits of highly effective people, David discovered something far more powerful than quick fixes or to-do lists. He found a way to live intentionally, rooted in purpose, balance, and connection. The first habit, be proactive, gave David the awareness that he was not a passive passenger in his life. He could choose his response, even when circumstances felt overwhelming. This shift planted the seed of hope and empowerment. From there, begin with the end in mind, invited David to look deeper, to define who he wanted to be, what values he wanted to guide him, and what legacy he wanted to leave. Suddenly, daily tasks weren't just chores. They were steps toward a vision that mattered. Put first things first taught him to prioritize what truly mattered over what screamed loudest. By leading his calendar rather than reacting to it, David found time for what nourished his soul and career alike. The shift toward interdependence came with Think Win-Win. David learned that success isn't a zero-sum game. Real achievement grows when we lift others as we climb. But to collaborate authentically, he needed to seek first to understand, then to be understood. Deep listening transformed his relationships, breaking down barriers and opening doors to new ideas and trust. This foundation allowed synergy to flourish. Synergize showed David the magic of combining diverse strengths, how differences, when respected, spark innovation far beyond what any one person can do alone. Finally, Sharpen the Saw reminded him that this journey wasn't a sprint but a lifelong path. To sustain growth, he needed to renew himself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Self-care was not indulgence, it was necessity. Today, David is not a perfect person. He still faces challenges, distractions, and moments of doubt. But he has a new toolkit, habits that shape his choices and mindset, guiding him through uncertainty with calm and confidence. He has moved from chaos to clarity, from reacting to leading, from isolation to connection, and this transformation is not unique to David. It can be yours too. The 7 habits are not rules to follow, but principles to live by. Principles that help you reclaim control over your life and create lasting change. What can you take away from David's story? First, that change begins with a single choice: to be proactive. Second, that clarity of purpose transforms busy work into meaningful progress. Third, that prioritizing what matters protects your energy and focus. Fourth, that success blossoms when you seek mutual benefit and listen deeply. Fifth, that collaboration unlocks new possibilities beyond your imagination. And finally, that ongoing renewal keeps you ready for the journey ahead. As you reflect on these lessons, remember this: you have the power to shape your mindset and your life. Every habit you build is a step toward becoming the person you want to be. Every small action matters, even when progress feels slow or setbacks appear. The path of personal growth is not a straight line. It's a process filled with learning, adjustment, and resilience. If David's story resonates, know this: your transformation starts now. You don't have to wait for the perfect moment or a big event. You can begin by taking one small, intentional step today. Thank you for spending this time with us and exploring the 7 habits of highly effective people. If you found value in David's journey and these powerful lessons, I encourage you to pause and reflect. What one habit can you start practicing today? How might your life change if you commit to even small, consistent steps? Personal growth is a continuous path, and every step forward builds momentum. If you want to continue receiving clear, motivating summaries that bring life-changing ideas right to you, please consider subscribing to BookPlay. By subscribing, you'll never miss a lesson that could transform your mindset and help you unlock your fullest potential. And if this video resonated, please like and share it with others who are ready to grow and thrive. Your support helps us create more content that inspires and empowers. Remember, transformation starts with intention, and today can be the start of something remarkable. Thank you for being here. We look forward to growing together.